We are live, Jane Unchained, with breaking news. We're going to bring you the latest on 1,000 hens rescued by Kim Sturla and her amazing team at Animal Place in Northern California. We're going to hear the story. But first, why don't we actually meet the hens and their happy rescue where they are now. This video was taken just last night. And hats off to Animal Place for that incredible rescue. Kim Sturla, how did you pull it off?
Well, that was a logistical nightmare, I've got to tell you. We started planning maybe 4 days before we left, and trying to find a comfortable way to transport 1,000 lives across country was challenging at best. And we looked at every possibility, and the only option we had was to charter 2 airplanes to fly them back to California, from Iowa to California. And thanks to a credible, generous donor, they made that possible, which we're forever grateful.
Yeah, you made CNN. This is a CNN report. A California animal sanctuary sent 2 planes to rescue 1,000 chickens that were going to be euthanized. Now, first of all, you and I probably agree that the word euthanize is a misnomer. When they're depopulating these animals, meaning they are essentially killing them at the farm because they can't kill them at the slaughterhouse, because slaughterhouse workers are dying left and right and getting sick with coronavirus, because they're one of the top infestations, along with hospitals and nursing homes, are slaughterhouses. So the slaughterhouses have shut down in some cases. The animals who are destined to be slaughtered there have backed up. And so what they call it is depopulating or euthanizing, but it's not a pretty picture. So unfortunately, there were many other hens who were depopulated and slaughtered at the farm, which shall remain nameless, in Iowa. How did you get these 1,000 out?
It took a lot of negotiating with the farmer himself. It was a farm of about 140,000 hens, all in one large building. The tiers were 5 high. And it was actually Kelsey Leach, our program director, who spends a lot of time working with him and trying to gain his trust, that he would let us come in, at 4 a.m. and take out 1,000 birds. You're right, absolutely right, Jane. Depopulating, euthanizing, culling, those are euphemisms that are used. And these hens, the white leghorns, and actually in California too, the method of killing them is by gassing them on site. And then usually their bodies are just, they're composted right on site there. That's how the disregard for life that is shown to them.
I want to show you the photo on CNN with the headline: a California animal sanctuary sent 2 planes to rescue 1,000 chickens that were going to be euthanized. Again, we challenge the word euthanize, but we thank CNN for covering the story. And then look at how they're kept. This is a battery cage. They can't spread their wings. They can hardly turn around. You found some very difficult and gross, for lack of a better word, conditions. Now I want to show the alternative, the way they are living now under your guidance. And again, this was just taken last night. You can see the difference. There is the before picture of these hens packed into these battery cages, stacked. These cages are stacked one on top of the other. You can see they can't even turn around. For the life of me, for the love of God, why would we do that to another being? Why? Money, and not farmers. These poor farmers are also exploited. They are sucked into this business.
Yes.
They are put into terrible loans. They make pennies on these chickens, and they often come down with illnesses. They're being factory farmed too, Kim.
I agree with you, especially your farm workers. I think they're another exploited species in this whole process. And I think folks don't know, because these farms are shut to the public. No one can go into these farms. But I don't think folks know what goes into making their morning omelet. From the beginning, that all those birds are hatched in hatcheries. They don't have the benefit of being with their mother. And then they're sexed, meaning the male chicks, since they're not going to be producing eggs and they're not of a breed that produces enough flesh for the consumer, then they're just ground up alive. That's the standard operating procedures of how you dispose of male day-old chicks. The females are kept, then they're immediately debeaked, and then they're thrown into cages. So one of the heartwarming things, because we do these large-scale rescues from hen farms all the time, and it never, I don't think any of us ever get used to the fact of going into the farm and pulling them out. But more importantly, when we bring them back to the sanctuary and let them out of the transport cages. That is one of the most joyful experiences you can have. And understanding we can only do these large-scale rescues because we have a very active adoption program. So actually, these 1,000 hens that we saved less than 2 weeks ago, they're all going into private homes. And they will be forever. They're companion animals. And these are homes that people have been screened to make sure that they're going into wonderful, loving, caring homes. And that's the only reason why we can continue saving so many lives. I think to date it's been 27,000 or so of hens from egg farms.
We are talking to Kim Sturla of animalplace.org. It's in Northern California. You can tell us exactly where. They did an emergency rescue of 1,000 hens that made global news. This is just one cover from CNN, and you can see the before picture. These are how the eggs you eat. These are how the animals are kept. This is the industry standard that's called battery cages. They cannot turn around. They cannot spread their wings. I call it legalized, institutionalized torture, where they're literally considered units of production. And then because of COVID-19 and the slaughterhouses being shut down, in some cases because of the COVID-19 coronavirus, where you had a lot of coronavirus outbreaks, and you still do, people dying left and right. The workers, who, by the way, according to some people I've talked to who are involved with the union, they're sweating. These guys are sweating, and women, and they're infected with coronavirus. Do the math on that one, sweating onto the food, the animals that they're butchering. And so there was a backup of animals that are not making love on these factory farms, that are forcibly impregnated. You know what that's called. Do I need to tell you? And so they have to depopulate them. They create these words, depopulate them. And it didn't just happen there. There's a bunch of news stories. This is not your case or the hens that you rescued, but here, 2 million Delmarva chickens being killed, not processed amid COVID-19. COVID-19 forces poultry growers to kill birds. Now, here's the thing. I think that now farmers really want to get out, because instead of just bidding their animals that they've raised goodbye, who they've raised goodbye, whom they've raised goodbye, and putting them on trucks, they have to kill them themselves. They're coming to terms with what they're really doing, which is raising animals to be slaughtered, and they want out. So this is really a game changer in the equation. What are your thoughts on that, Kim, as somebody who's been in this arena for so long?
Well, we are seeing a lot of that. There's farmers that are they're dairy farmers, they're pig farmers, they're raising chickens for their flesh. Those birds are killed at 6 weeks of age, or those in the egg business, as was the case of the chickens that we rescued. It was a farmer in Iowa going out of business because of COVID-19. The COVID-19 is interesting because it is almost encouraging a lot of folks, and increased folks, to be trying plant-based eggs, plant-based meats. And that is, I think this is going to be a huge game changer. I know folks bemoan, oh, those poor animals that are being depopulated early, as if that's the tragedy, that we're killing them earlier. The hens raised for their eggs, they're slaughtered at a year and a half of age. And better that those miserable, horrible lives that they are experiencing, that they be cut earlier rather than just dragging out that torture. So the sadness of it all is that, just as you said, Jane, these are why we feel we have the right to treat other beings in this manner. I think forever baffles us. We become so desensitized to other species. Folks are disconnected from where their food comes. And it's our emphasis every time we do a rescue is getting the word out. This is where these birds came from. And Jane, I wish you could be at the sanctuary when we come back from one of those large scale rescues and we open up those transport cages, and these girls, they're spreading their wings for the first time. They're walking on ground for the first time. They have sun on their backs. You'll notice a few in those photos that we took last night. Some of them are starting to perch. That's a process that usually takes several weeks before they all eventually have the strength and have the know-how to do this very chicken behavior. Some have started to dust bathe and to sunbathe, to see the awakening of them as beings, as chickens, is, again, one of the most heartwarming experiences of working at a sanctuary.
So I'd ask everyone to look at this before photo. This is how they were being kept, and this is how virtually all chickens, people love to say, oh, I get my chickens from a special place, or 99.999999999% of chickens are raised like this, no matter what they tell you. And when they say humane, there have been a zillion undercover investigations showing it's a scam. It's not any more humane, that they are cannibalizing each other, et cetera, et cetera. So this is how we in America raise, and pretty much around the developed world. This is, look at them. Look at that chicken with her head hung down. I mean, she's either dead or dying or ill. I mean, then look at how they're supposed to be. Look at that after rescue, very shortly after rescue. Look at the difference and ask yourself, what do you want to be a part of? And also the idea that most people are completely unaware that when they eat an egg, a boy chick has been macerated. That means ground up alive. And the only alternative to that is they're put in giant plastic bags and they suffocate you. I've seen some of the most gut-wrenching videos of a giant bag of male chicks chirping, 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 chirping until they die. Indeed, in Israel, there's a documentary where some activists went into an egg farm, an egg processing facility, where they kill these boy chicks and they stop the line because sometimes they go on a conveyor belt and they're just ground up. The police came And the activist said, well, officer, if you think what's happening here is okay, you hit the start button. And the officer couldn't do it. And so what we have to realize is every time we eat eggs, not only are we giving ourselves a giant cholesterol bomb, and until COVID-19, the leading killer was heart disease, which is plaque clogging the arteries, generally due to cholesterol. It's generally a lifestyle disease brought on by eating animal products and animal byproducts. So we're hurting our health. It's horrible for the environment. Meat is a much larger, and dairy and eggs, a larger carbon footprint. And we keep these animals in horrific conditions. And now there's something called Just Egg, which you can get at Costco. I just ordered it. And it comes in it looks like eggs. It scrambles like eggs. It's zero cholesterol. Why not do that? Those products are skyrocketing right now. Go ahead. As people change their plate and start to look at what is really behind their food. And the thing, Kim, is that now you have, for example, LULAC, which represents a lot of the slaughterhouse workers, launching a meatless May, and they've got something else that they're doing. So people are being forced, the farmers, the consumers are being forced to look at what's really going on. Is this a message from nature?
Well, first of all, I just want to comment on what you said, Jane, about Just Eggs, because what's wonderful is that we're partnering with them for this rescue and hopefully for future rescues. So all our adopters, each family that adopts, usually they adopt 3 or 4 or 5 hens at a time, they're getting a bottle of fresh eggs, of Just Eggs that they're donating to us. And I think it's perfect because we want folks to take care of these girls, know from where they came, why they're de-beaked, the suffering that they've endured. They have a lot of reproductive diseases. The hens raised for their eggs have a shorter lifespan than, let's say, a traditional chicken. But also now you can try a delicious alternative. And either the Just Egg bottle, the liquid that you spoke about.
You're looking at it right now.
They also now have a folded egg.
Yes, and I've ordered this. I've made it a zillion times. It is delicious. You can turn it into an omelet. You do exactly what you do with eggs. You scramble it or you turn it into an omelet, and again, it's better for you. So, do you see this time as a breakthrough? Final question: Do you think people are waking up?
I think folks are slowly waking up. As you know, Jane, we are up against the incredibly powerful agribusiness. And that's probably the most powerful group of corporations we have in the United States. And so they're fighting us tooth and nail, but it's interesting.
It's also the pharmaceutical industry, because remember, they need people to get sick so they can feed them the cholesterol lowering drugs, which is a multi-billion-dollar industry, the erectile dysfunction drugs, because erectile dysfunction is also clogging of the vessels in the body, and various other illnesses. Processed meat has officially been determined by the World Health Organization to be cancer causing. Where's the coverage on that? Go ahead.
Well, and it's also that we know that our farmed animals in the United States anyway, they're consuming about 80% of all antibiotics sold. Hence why we have these antibiotic resistant diseases that have taken over. So it's really what we are doing to our environment, to our own health, as you've addressed, and to other living beings it's insanity. And I think we are slowly, and I think a lot of this has to do with the rise in the past 10 years of all these plant-based meat, egg, milk alternatives. And folks are slowly trying them and understanding that they're delicious. And even their physicians, I think Kaiser's one there on the forefront, they're urging those that have high blood pressure, high cholesterol, to try a vegan diet. And they will see invariably some dramatic change very quickly.
All right. Well, I think what you're doing is extraordinary. I am so thrilled to be talking to you about this. I don't know. My desire is to play that video one more time for those who are just joining us. This is the video of the hens just last night that were before. This is the before picture. Let me get rid of the banner. This is the before picture. And this is how they're normally kept in these horrible battery cages. And let's see what they're looking like now. All righty. So you have a choice as consumers at home. If you don't believe that boy chicks should be ground up alive right after birth, if you don't think that living beings called hens, all of whom have personality, should be kept like this for their horrific short lives, if you like to see them be able to spread their wings, there's one simple thing you can do. Don't buy eggs. Don't eat chicken. Go plant-based. Yeah, so many people have gone plant-based recently who are thought leaders, who are up front. You have Mark Cuban announcing he's vegetarian on Shark Tank. You have Jim Cramer saying, hey, support Beyond Meat. This whole slaughterhouse industry is a mess. Just eat these burgers. They taste just like meat. Why not? So you have mainstream people making the connection. We got to make sure everybody else can get this crucial information. And thank you so much for what you do. Kim Sturla of Animal Place. Now in California, you can support Animal Place and the incredible work they do by going to animalplace.org and making a donation. So see you next time on Jane Unchained.